So today we try to learn about basic computer hardware and software devices. Okay, so this would help you in few of the competitive exams to clear. So it may you may get a questions regarding the computer hardware and software devices. With this session, you are able to answer those questions related to hardware and software devices. Okay, so let's walk through to these computer hardware devices. So when we are talking about the hardware and software devices, in the hardware devices again we have divided into subcategories like input devices and output devices. Okay, so if these are the few input devices like keyboard, mouse, scanner, these are such input devices. So when you say input, so we are giving some instructions to the computer, right? So we are talking about the computer hardware devices. So we are giving some instructions to the computer, nothing but we are giving some input to the computer. Okay, we are giving some commands to the computer. So in order to give those commands or in order to give those input to the computer, we need some devices. We use some devices. With the help of that, we put some input or we put some commands or we put some instructions to the computer so that it process. Okay, so that it process. So input is nothing but you are giving the command to the computer. Now, what are the devices you use to do such activity? What are the devices you use to give the instructions or to give the input to the computer? So we'll talk about those devices. So these are the few devices you can see: scanner, keyboard, mouse, or if you say biometric is also one of the input devices, right? So all these devices which is used to give some instructions or some command to the system or some command to the computer, those are called input devices. Okay, those are called inputs. And even digital camera also is an input device, right? Even digital camera also is input device. So these are the input devices. In real time, say suppose if you want to purchase something, right? If you want to purchase something, so there might be various ways. You may purchase by giving cash. You may purchase by giving some giving some goods, and in return you can get some goods. So these are the inputs. You are giving some inputs to get something, right? So this is the input is about. So these are the devices we use to give the input to the computer. Okay. And similarly, output devices, right? So when you give input to the computer, it does some process, it does some activity, it does some calculation. Okay, it does some process based on your input, right? So after processing it, it will give some output to you. Okay, it will give some output to you where you can see the output of that particular thing, right? Output of that particular thing. Now, output is nothing but when you are giving some input to the computer, it will process it and it will present you. Okay, it will display for you or it will give for you. So for that also we have some devices which will present the output for you guys, right? So those are nothing but one of this is printer, monitor, even speakers is also an output devices. Okay, say suppose you give the input to the computer, hey computer, I want to print this page, right? Then you will say print. When you say print, it will go to the printer and it will give you output as a one hard copy of print, right? Similarly, you will ask the computer play this movie. Okay, so you are giving the computer key, you are giving the computer to play some movie or to play some audio, right? So in the monitor it will display the particular particular movie or the particular audio you want to play, right? Of course, audio it will display in the speaker, right? So you are giving the input to the computer, it's doing some background, it's doing some process, and it displaying the output devices like the scanner, monitor, or speaker, what kind of depends on the input which you are giving, right? So accordingly, the computer will display. The computer will pass to the output devices. So these are the output devices. If you give a printer, if you want to print something, the computer will pass to the printer, which is the output device. If you give some input stating display of some image, right? if you want to display some image, then computer will pass to the monitor, it will display some image to the monitor. Or if you want to play some audio, so then it will display to the speaker as an output device, right. So the output devices are which? After processing what you will get final product, or what you will get final output through some devices, that is all called output devices, right. Then comes to central processing unit, that is called as CPU. That come to central processing unit. So we said input, we said output, right. We talked about input and of course the devices, and we talked about output, what is output and what are the devices, right. So using the input devices, you will pass the command to the computer, right, and doing some process. I said it will do some internal process, it will go through some process, and it will do some, if there is something called as printer. So for printing it, so it will identify the printer, which printer to give the print. Or if you say speaker, it will identify the speaker, which speaker to display, which speaker to give the output. So accordingly, the thing between the input and output, there is something is cooking, right. There is something is processing, right. There is something is calculating, or there is something is doing some action. So that is called as an central processing unit. Okay, that is called as central processing unit. In short, we will say CPU. Okay, so CPU, and it is the brain of the computer. It is the brain of the computer, right. It is the brain of the computer because it is doing all such requests, the requests you place or the command you place to the computer. It is doing all such process, right. And it is also called as microprocessor. Okay, so it execute each and every instructions you given by the user using those input devices. Okay, usually measured in gigahertz, right. So few of the microprocessor like Pentium, Celeron, Mac, AMD, Citrix, and Intel is one of the microprocessors. So these are the few microprocessor. So the job of the CPU is to process the instruction of the user, right. To process the instruction of the user. If user want to say, suppose if user want to calculate some say, suppose simply we can say a plus b. Okay, when you say a plus b, you will give a value, b value, then it does the arithmetic logic, and it would calculate a plus b and give the output of that, right. Okay, so the figure, the picture you see, that is called as a processor. Okay, above you can see the fan, right. So below the fan you have something called as processor, which is it's a chip, it's a silicon chip, simple it's silicon chip, right. So there is a process. So there is a processor, that is called as central processing unit. Okay, where your all inputs will be processed, and not only that processing, it will give the output to the appropriate devices. Okay, if you say print, then CPU do some process and give the appropriate devices would be the printer, right. It won't give some it won't give to the speaker, right. It won't give the speaker because you ask for print, then it has to print, right. So that would be that all decisions, or that all management or all navigation would be happened or would be taken decision in the central processing unit. Okay, that is called as the brain of the computer. That is why we call as the brain of the computer, because this is the area where it will think. This is the area where it will decide. If I want to print, give to the printer. Output device would be the printer. If I want to play some audio, give to the output device as a speaker, right. If you want to display something on monitor, yeah, it gives the output device to a monitor, right. So those are the, this is a central processing unit where each and every instruction of the user, each and every command of the user, each and every order of the user would be processed. Okay, so these are the central processing unit. It takes input from the input devices, process it, it gives to the output devices, right. The end result will display in the output device, right. So yeah, this is what the central processing unit. So as I said, central processing unit is a silicon chip. Is a silicon chip. It's also called a macroprocessor. it's very small chip, very small chip, each integrated with enabled with the silicon, right? Integrated with circuit is enabled with the silicon computer made of many chips on a circuit board. Okay, generally it's a you can call it as an all the chips integrated and it makes together is a set of microprocessor, right? So millions of transmissions would be integrated, millions of transmissions would be integrated, small pieces of silicon conditional material, right, conduct material, right. So if you see, this is the exact picture of the microprocessor. So this is how it looks, right. When you open the box, we call it a CPU box, central processor CPU box. When you open the CPU box, there would be some piece of this pointed chip which is called as a microprocessor. The figure you can see, this is how it looks. Okay, this is how it looks. So this is a device. This is a device, and of course this is a hardware device which do all these such activities, right? Which do all processing activities, commands given by the user, right? So this is a hardware device, right? One more hardware device is data storage device, right? So there would be some situation. I mean, so in a CPU or in a computer, you will put some data. You'll store some files. You'll store some videos. You'll store some softwares. Okay. You'll store some data, some images, some software, something, right? So the things which is stored in the computer is called as a data storage device, right? Again, data storage devices are various. Data storage devices are various. Some are permanent storage. I mean to say, read only memory, read-write storage device. Sometimes you can secondary storage, primary storage. Okay, when you say secondary storage, would be the device which you store, and primary storage would be device the data which is used for the computer. Okay, some data which is used for the computer, that is the primary storage device, and secondary storage device, some devices which is you use. I mean, you delete the data, you copy paste the data, you do all data management kind of stuff, right? So those are called data storage device. Ideally in one statement I can say the data which you use to store, okay, the data which you use to store is called as data storage device, where you store all your data. When I say data, it might be files, it might be images, it might be videos, it might be softwares, any data it might, right? Any data which you store in some area, that is called as data storage device, and this is a hardware component, right? This is a hardware component. Okay, going forward. So again, I said disk read-only memory, right? Read-only memory. So again, when you say data storage device, we have something called as read-write and read-only. When you say read-only, so you can only read the data, right? The data is stored. So now you can just read the data. You cannot write. When I say write, you cannot edit the data. You cannot edit the data. You don't have permission, or you don't have access, or you don't have or the device itself might not allow you to edit the data. Okay, so just you can read only the data. So it approximately 600 to 700 megabytes of storage it may occupy, right? So these are the few data storage devices. When I say the devices which we use to store the data, those are called data storage devices. So few of them are floppy disk. So nowadays you can't see the floppy disks. Initially we used to have the floppy disks. Okay, and this floppy disk will very minimal data can be stored. Very less data can be stored. So it might be 1.44 MBs of data can be stored in the floppy disk, right? In very initial stages, we used floppy disk. Okay, we used floppy disk, which is magnetic storage device, where you can store very limited data in it, right? So later on we come into flash drives, like we call it as pen drives, right? we come into flash drives. So when we it is an electronic storage device. It is an electronic storage device. Just you need to plug in. And you can play. Right? You can plug in and you can use it. So these flash drives store huge number of data, huge amount of data. You can say it's in GBs. Okay. These floppy drives stores large amount of data. Okay, large amount of data. Whereas in this this floppy disk, you need to insert the floppy disk in the floppy drive. You would having some slot called floppy drive, right? So in that floppy drive, you need to insert the floppy disk. Okay, you need to insert the floppy disk. If the computer don't have floppy drive, then you can't use this device. So that is a limitation for this. The limitation of the floppy disk, you can't insert your floppy drive without without the floppy disk without the floppy drive. And the limitation is you can store only very less amount of data. You can't store huge amount of data, right? So this is the limitation for this floppy disk. Whereas in flash drive, you can store huge amount of data, and just it's a plug-in. Just there's a slot where you can insert your pen drive, and you can access the data, or you can copy the data, or you can paste the data. So you can do anything. Okay. So when come to flash drive, so you can store huge amount of data, and this is also an hardware component. Okay. So this is the data storage device. Now, when I say so has like floppy disks, has like pen drives or flash drives. Similarly, we have something called as computer memories, right? So we have computer memories, the memory inside the computer. Okay, the memory inside the computer. So these are stored in zeros and ones, or on or off, right? On or off. So the data inside the computer is stored in a binary format. Okay, stored in a binary format. Like if you say the measurement 1 KB could be 1000 bytes, 1 MB would be 1000 kilobytes, or 1 million byte. 1 GB is 1000 megabytes, or 1 billion byte, right? So in the computer, the data is stored in zeros and ones. Okay, zeros and ones, and that is called as binary digits, right? That is called as binary digits, right? So it's a computer memory actually. It's a computer memory. In the computer memory, the data was stored in zeros and ones. Okay, which you cannot see actually. Okay, so it is internally managed. So you cannot see this are internally managed. Data is stored in zeros and ones. That is a binary digit. So you can see the calculation. I mean, you can see the measurement, how it measured. It measured in kilobytes, it's measured in megabytes, it's measured in KB. Nowadays, we have something called as terabyte as well. So about that, right? So this is how it looks in a computer. Again, we have in computer memory. Again, we have RAM, ROM. Okay, random access memory, read-only memory. Okay, read-only memory, right? In the computer memory, again we have something called as random access memory, like RAM. The terminology RAM, which you use to store the data, is processing. Say what happens is really end-to-end process of doing some input, right? So when you give some input to the computer, it goes to the CPU. But inside CPU, to process that input, there should be some memory, right? To process that input, the command, the input, the instruction, the command, to do such process. So inside the computer, there should be some memory to hold that instructions, right? Okay, to hold that instructions, there should be some memory, some temporary memory to process those instructions, or to hold and to process those instructions. That is called as RAM. Okay, so that instructions would be placed in the RAM process, in the RAM memory. From the RAM memory, the computer will start processing on it. Okay, computer will start processing on it. So the speed of the computer is also depends on the RAM, right? The speed of the computer depends on the RAM. Suppose you are passing huge commands. suppose you are passing huge commands or huge commands. When I say huge commands, which take lot of memory, okay, the commands which take lot of memory, and you have very little memory, very 2 GB RAM. You can measure it, the RAM is measured in 1 GB, 2 GB. So nowadays minimum they are using the 2 GB of RAMs, right? So when you are processing, when you are giving a computer a instruction which may consumes the large data, or multiple or simultaneously you are processing multiple things. Okay, simultaneously you are giving multiple tasks to the computer. Okay, that is called multitasking. We'll look forward what is that exactly multitasking is about, right? So sometimes you will give instructions, back to back instructions to the computer, or sometimes you'll open one video, you'll start browsing to net, or you do some copy paste kind of stuff. So parallelly you are doing all these activities. Okay, parallelly you are doing all these activities. So these all instructions would be stored in the computer memory called RAM. Okay, from RAM, CPU will pick, some RAM processor will pick, from RAM a processor will pick that command, each and every instruction, and start processing it, right? So when you are giving more instructions and RAM size is less, then the performance of the computer will be reduced. Okay, the performance of the computer will be reduced. Okay, so one point here, the performance of the computer is depends on the microprocessor, the microprocessor, okay, and the RAM, right? The performance of the computer is depend on the microprocessor and the RAM. Okay, so RAM is used to store the instructions you are given to the computer, and the microprocessor to process those instructions, right? So it stores the instructions in the RAM. Okay, so microprocessor will pull that instructions from the RAM and do some processing, right? So these are the things. So yeah, so RAM is nothing but read-only memory, which each and every instructions would be stored in that RAM. Okay, the data that is to be processed. When the computer is this will be we can say this is as a logical memory. When I say logical memory, until unless the computer is on, the memory in the RAM will be exist, or until unless the processor, the command is on, or I can say until unless the command is on, the memory will be there. Once the command is closed, or once the system is off, the memory will be lost. Okay, so this is a logical memory. So then and there it will create some memory for that particular instructions. We can also say it as a dynamic memory. Dynamic memory, when I say dynamic, it will create then and there when some instructions comes in. Okay, it will create some memory when some instructions comes in. Okay, so that is about RAM. So that is dynamic memory. We can say dynamic memory. Okay, we can say dynamic memory. Okay, then we have something called as ROM, right? So when you start your computer, something will load, right? Some Windows will load, right? Some OS will be loading, and the software inside the software installed in the computer will be loading, right? So all kind of stuff which when you kick on the computer, or when you start the computer, the prerequisite or the initial loading, the very initial loading, like OS will be loading, the supporting files will be loading, or the files which are installed would be occupied some memory, right? It will be loading. So all this stuff when you start the computer, whatever the things will be loaded, that would be loaded from the ROM. Okay, that would be loaded from the ROM when you operate the computer, right? When you operate a computer. So so cache memory increases the process by recording and anticipating instructions, right? So all the things will be loaded. So there would be something called as cache memory. When I say cache memory, the memory this is also a temporary memory, right? Temporary memory, where if the same instructions, say suppose I want to print one, or I can say suppose I want to calculate something, I want to do some calculation of something. So it holds some memory, right? it do some memory and do some calculation, right. Same instructions, again I am giving the same instruction, then it won't go for the it won't go for the RAM or ROM, something like that. It pulls from the cache, that is bridge or shortcut or temporary location or temporary area, where repeatedly you are giving same, if you are repeatedly giving same instructions to the computer, instead of processing, instead of doing all that stuff, it will get from the cache, okay, it get from the cache. So what happens here is instead of again processing everything, once it gets from the cache, it means that you are reducing the processing time. When I say reducing the processing time, you are increasing the speed of the computer. So speed of the computer would be increased because of these caches. Okay, it's a temporary, again this is a memory, it's a very, very temporary memory, where repeated instructions, when you place a repeated instructions to the computer, so those instructions or those results would be comes from the cache, right. So yeah, so RAM, dynamic memory. When I say RAM, dynamic memory, so ROM is a static memory, right. It's a static memory. This memory is allocated for certain instructions. This memory is fixed for certain instructions. So this is a dynamic memory. So it is always occupied something, right. It is always occupied something, and it will be operated when you start your computer very fast. When you start your computer very first time, right, when you on your computer very first time, so this RAM memory would be activated, right. So this is a static memory. So if you want to understand the terminology of dynamic and static, dynamic means it will create at that point of time, okay, it will create at that point of time, it will create at that point of time, at that given instance of time, then that is called a dynamic, that is RAM. Static, fixed, okay. So this is how it is. A is equal to 10, that's it, that is fixed, okay. So this memory is fixed for certain instructions, and this is used for those instructions. That is called as RAM. That is called as ROM, right. Yeah. So again, cache memory, when you are repeatedly giving some instructions to the computer, instead of processing it, instead of doing all that stuff, it will get from the cache, because again you are I was asking the same thing to the computer, right. Why again, if you ask same to the computer, why again to processor and all kind of stuff, instead of that it will get from the cache, okay. And one point is, even even each and every device has some memory. Like say suppose using keyboard you will type something, okay, using keyboard you will type something, right, using keyboard you will type something. So when you press A, that A command will store in some memory, right, that is also cache memory. So in the keyboard also you have some memory to store some the digits. If you press A, so in the keyboard you have some memory which stores that A. If you press B, in the keyboard you have some memory which stores B. So that is also called as cache memory. That's very, very temporary memory. So this temporary memory, again it exists till your system is on, till the process is exist, okay. So these are about the computer memories, right. So far the things we discussed is all about the hardware stuff. So all memories or devices, input output devices, CPUs, computer processing unit, microprocessor, RAM, the device you saw, right, RAM. So all these stuffs are related to hardware devices, okay, all these stuffs are related to hardware. Now coming to the software is something you cannot see, right. So hardware, so far we saw hardware device, yeah, scanner you can see, printer you can see, mouse you can see, right, RAM you can see, but software device as such you cannot see. It would be done logically, right, you cannot see that stuff, okay. So in the software device, in the softwares, we have something called as graphical user interface, right. When you switch on your computer, you will display with one screen. You will display with one screen, and the screen you will be having multiple icons, right. So that is called a desktop. So has like to interact with the computer, we have hardware devices, we have hardware components or hardware devices. Similarly, to interact with the computer, we have software things also. Software devices, or I can't say devices, but yeah, softwares. I can say softwares. Those are devices because those are can see, can feel, can touch, right? But these are things just you can interact, just you can you can click, you can place one click, then it will execute, right? So to interact with the computer, graphical user interface is this is the interface which is used to interact with the computer, okay, which is used to interact with the computer. So it is a desktop, whatever you can see on the desktop, when you switch on your computer, the screen which will display, right, that is called a desktop, that is called as graphical user interface. So whatever you see on the desktop, is called as icons, right, is called as icons, okay. It's called as icons. So it's a small picture that represents files, commands, windows, okay. GUI, operating system, Unix. So when I say operating system, that might be a Unix operating system or Windows operating system. So there are again the kind of operating system. So we don't get into the operating system concept because again it is again something different stuff. So just the agenda is to, what is this GUI? Graphical user interface, GUI you can call it as. So the interface, the interface using which we can instruct, or we can browse the computer, or we can give the commands to the computer, right? So this the screen you are seeing is a desktop, so in the desktop, whatever you can see, that is called as icons, okay. Those are called as icons, okay. So each and every icon is represent one file, each and every icon is represent one picture or on command or something, or softwares. So anything can be on icon, on the desktop. So you call it as an icon. Whatever you see on the desktop, you call it as an icon. So this is a interface, or this is a media, or this is a source where you can operate your computer, or where you can give the instructions to the computer, right? So in the previous things, you give the instructions to the computer by using some devices, like you are giving instructions to the computer by keyboard. You are typing something to the computer, then that instructions is went to the keyboard. You can give the instructions to the CPU. Similarly, you have something called as GUI, okay, graphical user interface, right? This is a software device. So again, in this thing, we have something called as video cards. Display. This is used to display the videos, right? So to run a videos, we have something called as video cards, okay. This is a chipset that can increase the speed of the video player, okay, video plays, right? So to display some videos, so we have something called as video cards, which plug into the motherboard. When you say motherboard, it is a circuit. It's a board. It's a circuit. I mean, it's a board which integrated with all other silicon chips, like I said, microprocessor. So similarly, we have something called as a slot to insert a RAM. You can put a RAM in a motherboard also. So all the RAM, processor, or in any graphic card, any video card, any such video cards will be inserted, will be plugged into the motherboards, okay. So this video card is used to display the images, used to display the videos, to play the videos. So these are the silicon chips. Again, these are the chipsets that used to display the images, or refreshment rate of the images, so which increase the video memories, okay, enhance the refreshment rate of the images. So these are the additional devices which will result you increasing the video memory, or which will result you increasing the image clarity or something like that, right? So these are the video cards. Again, this is the hardware device. Ports and peripherals, yeah. So so all the devices like you can say keyboard, you can say mouse, you can say any other devices or projector like kind of stuff. You can say projector or pen drives or audio video slots. So to plug in all these devices, we have something called as ports. We have something called as ports and peripheral devices. So to using these ports, we can connect all the peripheral devices. When I say peripheral devices, is nothing but keyboard, mouse, projector, or audio video plugins or pen drives. So these are called peripheral devices to plug in to connect flash drives or to connect this to your computer. You will be having something called as ports. Okay, something called as ports for each and every device, for each and every device or each and every peripherals, you have a specific port. Okay, to connect the CPU, to connect the mouse, you have device called, to connect the mouse you have some device. To connect the keyboard, you have some port. You connect the pen drive, you have some port. To connect the projector, you have some port. To connect the speaker, you have some port. So for every peripheral device, they have respective devices, respective ports to connect to the computer, to connect to the CPU, to connect to the you can say CPU. Yeah, you connect to the CPU. You have some each and every port. So that might be, so for example, there are called serial port, parallel, hot wire, USB. There are some names. Based on the devices. They are based on the peripherals you are connecting to it. So they are named in such a way. Okay, like some disks, like mouse you can connect printer, you can connect modem, monitor, camera, flash, mouse, keyboard. So all this stuff which you are connecting, you can connect through ports. Okay, that is called as ports, where you can connect all your peripheral device. Okay, so here again two terms, one is ports, one is peripheral device. Peripherals, you can call it peripherals. So ports is nothing but the slot, the point where you can connect. What you are connecting? You are connecting the peripheral device, or like drives, mouse, printer, all kind of stuff. So to connect all such stuffs, so you have some ports for respective device. So why I say respective device? For CPU, for mouse, you cannot connect a keyboard, right? For a speaker, you can connect the monitor. For scanner, you cannot connect the something else. So right. So for every device has their respective, or every peripheral has their respective ports. Okay. So that is about the ports and peripheral devices. So as discussed, right? This is a speaker. So you can connect to the port. You have some port to connect to the speaker, and this is a printer or scanner. You have some port to connect to the printer and scanner. Just you need to connect, you need to plug in, and you need to use. Okay, you need to plug in. The computer will identify using that port ID. So if you are connecting printer to some port, so computer will identify that port is printer. Then accordingly, it will do some process. Okay, so that is how the computer will manage your peripheral devices with the help of those plugins, with the help of the ports. Computer will access the peripheral devices or access the external device. Okay, one clear idea about the peripheral device is something which you are connecting externally. Okay, something which you are connecting externally, those are called peripherals. Okay, like CPU, monitor you are connecting externally, keyboard you are connecting externally, pen drive, flash drive you are connecting externally. So these are external connection, not the internal one, right? Not the internal. These are external one. So those are called peripheral devices, right? Resolution. Resolution. In few we can connect multiple monitors also. If you see the screen 1 and 2, so that represents that says monitors. You can connect 2 monitors also. Okay, so you can connect 1 monitor and 2 monitors, or of course I can say multiple monitors. And pixels resolution, when you say resolution, the clarity, the things which you see on the screen, how clear it is, okay, how clear it is, that is number of pixels, okay, number of pixels. If the number of pixels increases, then resolution would be good, okay. If the number of pixels increases, the resolution would be good. When I say resolution, when you see the screens, how clear it is, right? Sometimes if you increase the resolution, or sometimes if you decrease the resolution, though some blur kind of stuff, you're not able to see the image, or you're not able to see the text very clear, okay, because there is something called as setting the resolution. There's something called as setting the resolution. You can see the screen, you can see in the picture that bar which you can see, that arrowed bar, right? When you move that bar left and right, or to and fro, then the resolution of the screen would be changes, okay. So if you move to the left, the icons of the screen would be very small, okay. The text of the screen would be very small. If you open some image, that would be very small. So that is the resolution. When you increase to the right side, the pointed bar, then the resolution is high. I mean to say, the image would be increased. You can see the bigger images or bigger icons. So that is about the resolution. So resolution is nothing but what you can see on the monitor, what you can see on the monitor. That is called as a resolution. If the resolution, based on the resolution, the clarity of the monitor would be depends. Okay, based on the resolution, the clarity of the monitor would be depends. Okay, that's about the resolution. So if you see the image, the image says that you are seeing the far object, right? You are seeing the far object. When you see the very far object, then it looks very small. It looks very small, and it will not be clear. Okay, when you zoom it those objects, then it will be very clear. It means that you are improving the resolution. Okay, we are improving the screen resolution. That is measured in pixels. Like that shortcut is PPI. So that is a pixel, approximately 72 pixels. Okay, so that is how it looks. So you can see height and width of the pixel. So 640 into 840 is the low resolution, and high resolution is 1600 into 1200 is the high resolution. So that is how it is. The pixels are measured, right? That is how the pixels are measured. Okay. So we have something called as, again, this is a hardware device. We have something called as LAN and WAN. Okay. So in a building you have multiple systems. Okay. In a building you have multiple systems. So you want to connect to each and every system. It might be a computer to computer, or it might be computer to laptop, or it might be computer to a printer. It might be any device, right? It might be any device. When you say device, it can be any. It can be printer to computer. Okay, it can be printer to some other. I can say in room 1 I have one computer, but in room 2 I have printer. Okay, so we can connect. Okay, we can connect room 1 computer to room 2 printer. Okay, similarly in room 1 I have one computer. In room 2 I have some other computer. So we can connect both two computers. Okay, so something like that. So it can be any device. So the scope of these devices should be within the building. When you say the network, when you say the devices are within the building and you are connecting to those devices are called those devices, that is called local area network. That is called as LAN. Okay, LAN connection. Okay, LAN connection. The scope of the LAN connection would be within some workstations or some building, or within some scope, some building or some workstation. So to connect such devices within some one building is called as LAN, local area network. So this is a networking concept. So just for brief idea, LAN is nothing but to connect the systems or to connect the devices within a single building or within a single workstation. Okay, those are called LANs. Okay, those are called LANs. And the WANs. So now when I say building, now now one building is high-tech city, and one building is Madhapur, and one building is some other place. Okay. Now you want to connect these networks or these buildings. Okay. You want to connect the devices which are exist in these buildings. So that is called as WAN. Okay. So LAN is one set. Connecting all the LANs is called as WAN. Right. LAN is one set within the single buildings, and those multiple connections are called as WANs. So all multiple LAN connections are called as WAN. Okay, wide area network, that is called as a wide area network. LAN, local area network, and WAN, wide area network. Right, you are connecting all LANs. Okay, all LANs. When I say LANs, again a building devices within the building, that's called LANs, and these LANs and LAN 1, LAN 2, LAN 3. Right, all LANs we are connecting. So that is called WANs. Right. So wide area network. Okay. The scope would be more. Okay. The scope would be more. So in the LAN case, we have only scope to a limited. We have only limited scope where you can connect within the building. Right. When you go for WANs, so these LANs are, if there are 4 LANs, you are connecting to those 4 LANs, then it's called as WAN. So the scope is huge now. Right. The scope is from one area to another area. You can connect the devices on at one area to the another area. Right. So that is called as WANs. Right. So bandwidth. Okay. So bandwidth is how information can be carried in a given period. Right. So if you are passing some information, okay, if you are passing some information, so how much information you are carrying it, right? How much information carrying it? Say suppose, right, I'm giving some printing. I'm giving some printer. Say suppose I am giving some printer of 100 pages. So bandwidth is high here, right? It takes some time. Okay, it takes some time. If you are giving one single page, the bandwidth would be low. So when I say bandwidth, the information you are passing is called as bandwidth. Okay, if the information you are passing in a given period of time, so that is called as bandwidth. It can be over a wireless, it can be over a wired communication, like telephones is a wired and mobiles is a wireless communication. So how much it can pass, how much information it can pass at a given point of time, that is called as bandwidth. That is measured as a bandwidth. Right? That is a measurement which we term as a bandwidth. Right? Is the rate of information is transferred as a communication channel. Right? So how much information you are passing through a communication channel. When I say communication channel, the channel might be wired, the channel might be wireless. Okay. So how much rate of information, how much information you are passing in a given point of time. So that is called as bandwidth. Okay. So you can see the picture. We have something called as wired communication, and you have something called as wireless communication as well. Right. Multitasking and multiprocessing. Okay, multitasking and multiprocessing. Multitasking is the things which we give at a given point of time. We are giving multiple instructions or multiple executions to a program. Right. To multiple execution to a program is nothing but as multitasking. Right. Is that ability to execute more than one task at a given point of time. Okay. At a given point of time, if the computer is executing more than one task, that is called as multitasking. Okay. Only one CPU is used between switch from one program to another program. Right. So here in this multitasking, there would be one CPU which takes multiple instructions or multiple executions at a given point of time. Okay. So one CPU taking multiple inputs, like for example, in your system or in your personal computer, right? You can open a video, right? You can browse to Google. So parallelly the video is playing, and parallelly you are doing some task, or you are giving some instructions, some execution to the CPU. You are opening something, right? You are opening some, or say suppose you open some notepad, you are typing something, so that is one instruction, one execution, and parallelly you are doing some, you are playing some video, that is one execution, and parallelly you are displaying some audio, that is one execution. So at a time you are giving multiple instructions or multiple execution to a single CPU, right? At a time you are giving multiple execution or multiple instructions to a single CPU, that is called as multitasking. Okay, multitasking is nothing but at a time giving multiple instructions to a particular CPU or particular single CPU is called as multitasking, right? Similarly, we have something as multiprocessing. Okay, so multiprocessing, there would be more than multiple CPUs or multiple computers. If you see in the picture, there are multiple computers connected to each and every computer, like it's a network. You can see it's a network where multiple computers are connected, right? So when you give some instructions to one computer, it may pass to the other computers as well, right? So multiple CPUs are working together now. Okay, multiple CPUs are working together. So that's why it's called the multiprocessing. So processing is a terminology for CPU, related to CPU, right? So one process, one CPU. If there are multiple processes, then multiple CPUs. So that is called multiprocessing. So example, network rendering. You can see the network over there, right? So one CPU in the parent CPU. Under that you have multiple other CPUs, right? So you are using multiple processors or multiple CPUs or multiple processors to do some task. To do some task, you are doing multiple CPUs. The term itself says you are using multiple CPUs or multiple processors. That is called as, that is why it is called as multiprocessing, right? So the major difference between multitasking and multiprocessing. So usually there might be confusion. What is multitasking and multiprocessing? Generally, in the competitive exams also, they may ask what is multiprocessing and what is multitasking. Multitasking, one CPU, multiple instructions. That is only the difference. And multiprocessing, multiple CPUs, one instruction. Okay, that is multiprocessing. So this is this is only one line. One line difference between these both two, right? So that is why it makes, it is very confusion concept actually. So multiple tasks to one CPU is multitasking, and single tasks to multiple CPUs is then multiprocessing. So that is how you can differentiate multitasking and multiprocessing. So this may ask in competitive exams, like what is multitasking and what is multiprocessing, or they may even ask the difference between multitasking and multiprocessing, right? So to answer that question, so multitasking is to a single CPU, you are instructing or you are executing multiple programs. On a single CPU, you are executing multiple programs, is called as multitasking. And to multiple CPUs, you are executing multiple processors or multiple instructions or single instructions, can be anything, right? So that is called as multiprocessing, right? Yeah, multimedia. The software program includes sounds, picture, video, text, hypertext to create a presentation, like PowerPoint presentation, media, director, flash, right? So multimedia, which is an interface, or which is a media, or which is an software, which is a software devices, which you can include sound, you can include picture, you can include video, text, and hyperlinks. Okay, like you heard the term video player or media player or something like that, right? So those are called multimedia. Those are called multimedia. If you want to present something, or if you want to give some presentation, right? If you want to give some presentation, so you use a PowerPoint as a presentation. That is a multimedia, right? Or if you want to play something, okay, you use some player, some software to play some videos, some software to play pictures, some software to write some text. So all these software components. So these are all software computer softwares. So which is used to present videos, pictures, text, or even presentation or flashes. All kind of stuff is called as multimedia. Okay, multimedia, right? So programs, this multimedia software programs include sounds, pictures, videos, text, and hyperlinks, hypertext to create presentation, right? So you want to present something, it can be a picture, it can be video, it can be text, or it can be a proper presentation. Okay. Okay. So such software includes, like we have few softwares examples, that is PowerPoint, Micromedia Director, Flash. So these are the few softwares which comes under multimedia. So these are the few software which comes under multimedia. Using these softwares, you can present pictures, videos, text, or all kind of stuff. So this is called as multimedia. Okay, the stuffs which you want to present, so you can use some multimedia softwares which is used to present the pictures or sounds, right? File management. So file management is nothing but you have something called as you have something called as data storage devices, right? So the data can be stored anyway. But there is some structure format, right? When you open a computer, you can see C drive, E drive, D drive, a lot of the other drives, based on your partition you make, right? That is called as directories. Okay, that is called as directories, folders, files. So when you say file management, when you want to save data, when you want to store some data, or when you want to save some file, then it asks for the directory. So in which directory, or it asks for the folder, in which folder you want to save the file. It asks for the file name. What is the file name you want to keep, right? So there is a standard structure, there is a standard format, there is a standard structure to identify the files or to store the files in a particular in a particular storage devices or in particular computer, right? So those are called file management. So file management, when you talk about the file management comes under so which drive you are storing a file, what is the folder name, what is the file name, even what is the extension of the file, right? So all these come together, will speak about the file management. Say suppose open one Excel file. When I say open one Excel file, when you say open one Excel file, the next question you will be asking, what is the file name of that Excel file? Okay, what is the file name of that Excel file? So you will say, yeah, file name is 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 Excel. So when I say 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 Excel, then next question is where this file is placed. Is that placed in C drive, D drive? Where is that placed, right? So that is the file management system. So file management system, so it includes the directory, the file name, the file extension, right? When you talk about the file, say if I ask you to open some file, the next question would be, what file you want me to open, right? So you are asking which file I want to open. So I say Excel file. The next question would be, where is that file located, right? So these all kind of information will come under file management system. So how effective you are managing your files, right? So the Excel file, today's date folder, some D drive, C drive, so you are putting some file. So ideally you are managing the files by using the drives, by using the folders, by using the file names, right? So if you see, let's see practically how this file management looks like, right? Let's see practically. When you see here, so this is a desktop. When I say open some file, so the file might be on desktop as well, right? So this is a file which is on the desktop, these are the files which is on the desktops, right. Okay. This is a file which is on the desktop. Or else if I say please open a file which is in the D drive, okay. So when you are saying D drive, this is the address of the file. The file is in D drive, so you are managing that file is in D drive, okay. So you can go to the D drive, you can go to the my computers, okay. You can go to the my computers, yeah, this PC. If you open this PC, you can see these are the drives, you can see these are the drives, okay. So this is a desktop, again you can directly navigate to the desktop, and this is a C drive, E drive, D drive, okay. So you are managing your files in a D drive, right. If you open the D drive, you can see some files, okay, and inside that you can see some folders, right. If you open some any particular some test folder, if you open some test folder, in the test folder you have some files, right. So how this is managed? How this is managed? So if you see the address in the E drive, in a test folder, you have some files. So this is all concept called as file management. So how effective you are managing the files. So to search for particular file, that depends on how effective you are managing the files. If you are managing the files very effective, then you can easily access those files, or easily you can search those files, or easily you can open that files, right. So this is called file management, right, the way you are managing the files, okay. So for as a part of file management, you have something called as C drive. So this is the default file management, where whenever you install some software, so by default it will be stored in these files, in this drive, that is C drive. So this is very very specific to some activities, like when you install some file, or when you install some OS, that would be stored in the C drive. So this is one file management. So you can see the example. Here is something called as address. So he managed the files in this particular area. In C drive, some folder location movie.avi, right. So this specifies your file management. So see, saving file, save as, and exporting, importing, or these all kind of files. When you say save, then it will ask for it will ask for you where to save, right. It asks for you where to save the file, in which drive you want to save the file, okay. So this is the saving example of the files. So you can see the screen, you can see the screens there. You can go for the file, you can say save as, then it asks for the location where you want to save the file, give the file location, it will be stored at that particular location. Merging files, you can even merge multiple files to one single file. So when you say merging, you are putting the multiple files to a single file. Or you can say open file, okay. You can open file. When you say open file, again it will ask for where is the location of that particular file, where is the location of that particular file to open, right. So that is how you can do. So this is the end of the session. In this session, we'll learn what are the hardware components, what are the software components, basic hardware and software components of a computer, right. So in that we saw how the memory is managed, how the files are managed, what are the input devices, what are the output devices, and what is the multitasking, what is multiprocessing, what is LAN, what is WAN. So all kind of stuff. So we learn in this session today. So yeah, this is about the hardware and software, computer basic hardware and software.